Oh, and we're live. Welcome to, well, probably the first ever good morning walk on a on a Friday. But yes, we were up last night watching the results roll in, and then I got to a point where I was like, I'm going to fall asleep on stream if I'm not careful. So we had to. So I jumped on out at that point to see where the results were coming in. To be honest, I'm sort of glad, considering where some of the results, what time some of the results are coming in, because we've still got results to come in, believe it or not, even now. So it was a very, very, so far from what we've seen from the picture, at least tonight, well, from last night, for even this morning, is that looks like the Lib Dems, let me get my teeth in. The Lib Dems and the Greens have had a really good night. Overall, taking seats from mostly the Conservatives, which is good, because that's what we wanted to see, but they did take some Labour seats as well. That was always going to happen. Like I say, Labour is defending the majority of seats that were up for re-election last night in England. So ultimately we are, again, just having to guess just what's going on out there. But of course, the big news, big news, of course, Labour took Wandsworth. Very, very good. They managed to take Sunderland, although while they did retain control, they did lose some seats. One to the Lib Dem, they lost 2 to the Greens, I think, overall. The Conservatives took, I think, the council in David Cameron's area, which would be quite interesting, again, to, well, replicate that in a general election. That could be very interesting to try and sort of apply those numbers, how they play out. But yeah, overall, been an interesting night. And again, results still to come in from some areas. Of course, it won't be maybe until the weekend until we see Northern Ireland certainly come in and the situation that could play out there. Wales and Scotland are having their votes counted in today. So we are hoping to see some Labour victories out there today. But overall, how's the picture? Has it been a good night for Labour? Yes, absolutely. Just taking Wandsworth alone is a very, very good victory, and will ultimately send some very worrying numbers to, well, certainly to the Conservatives, but also for the fact that Labour still needs to do better. And you know me, we're always about telling, Labour to be better. Because while they have had a bit of a good showing up north, it's not as good as we have hoped it should be. Meaning that Labour really, really need to think about what it is they're offering and offer like a proper change, So, and we've talked about this, I don't know how many times on, the Good Morning Walk before. Release a manifesto. Just, release a manifesto. It ain't hard, guys. talk about, you know, what you intend to do for the country. It's not that hard. So, again, what the full picture is going to be when all the results are counted, almost certainly that, you know, Boris has lost seats, and the theme and the story of the night will be that a lot of the local Conservatives do feel that it has been Partygate and Boris Johnson. And there were calls last night for, well, Johnson to go. Again, please, you know, calls from, you know, the local Conservative parties, reconsider your choice for who is leading us, please. That's certainly one of the stories. The other story is, again, low voter turnout. This was reported very, very early on, after the polls closed. How this low voter turnout in some areas will have affected the vote, we don't know. We also definitely saw last night defections and from Labour, but it was defections from the Conservatives. We saw the opinion poll last night. Those people who voted Conservative don't think the government is doing enough. And those that changed really don't think the government is doing enough with the cost of living crisis. And remember, just a couple of days ago, we've had Boris's absolute car crash of an interview, going out and basically saying, well, you're on your own, guys. There was no other way you could really cut it. That's what was on offer. That's what was said. And that is indeed what the Tories basically have on offer. You're on your own because we ain't helping you. And with a recession looming, according to the Bank of England, it was really not going to be good. A walk on the weekday. I hope you're saving some ponies for the weekend. Well, like I say, actually, this actually sort of works out. I'm going to be busy sort of Saturday morning, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do a good morning walk. We might have to do one maybe later in the evening, maybe even Sunday morning. In fact, we might have to do it Sunday morning. Yeah, in fact, it might actually be Sunday morning. We do the good morning walk tomorrow, just to let you know, for those of you with their walking boots on. I'm going to put it on Sunday. But yes, good morning to all those joining us. And like I say, last night, thank you very much for all those people who did join us last night or continued to stay up after I did. Like I say, local election results are still rolling in. But other than that, it was a very good test, I think, for a general election. That's what I sort of really wanted to do. Certainly learned a lot. We ain't starting live streaming until at least the polls close next time. That at least cuts out an hour. Have more of a sleep. Definitely next time for a local election. And at least in a general election, they're kind enough for, well, the vote to be certainly over long before now. Like I say, we've still got local councils still to declare in the UK. And of course, Scotland and Wales will be releasing their results today. Very much so with the first results from Northern Ireland, maybe later this afternoon. And of course, we'll then get the full results, I think, by Saturday afternoon. So, Overall, interesting night, but again, I think the big news that a lot of people are going to walk away with was good night for the Lib Dems, good night for the Greens. They took a lot of seats, mostly from the Conservatives, and the Lib Dems did also take Hull as well. But of course, like you say, full picture. We've got to wait to see what this means. But of course, the question is, as always, especially for the Greens, always had this trouble. Given I'm across the pond, haven't heard the news, how did we do? Labour did actually quite well. We took Wandsworth. That's the big news for the night for Labour. So, as I said last night, if Labour can take Wandsworth, if they can take Westminster, I think we're still waiting for results on. But if we can take those two seats, those are two big local councils that the Conservatives have always controlled. So if we can take those, if we can follow up with Westminster, that will be even better news. The fact that we took Wandsworth, that we held Sunderland, not Sunderland, not Southampton. Yeah, was it Sunderland? Yeah, must be Sunderland. Yeah, Gateshead. Yeah. Hartlepool should be a big one to get it back. A lot of media attention. Yes. As I don't think they've reported back yet, as far as I'm aware. As far as I'm aware, I don't think Hartlepool has reported back. We'll still have to wait and see. Like I say, we are still waiting on a lot of results tonight, but the fact that Labour took Wandsworth, that's big enough news. That is a good night. That is a very good night for, for Labour. And certainly going forward, I'd certainly like to see, obviously, more seats in the north be taken by Labour. Again, would set a very good standard for going forward for the next general election. But the Lib Dems had a very good night as well. Everton the Dog, mixed results. Sort of. I mean, the Tories have done bad. Like, make no mistake, the Tories have taken a bit of a thrashing. But I think it was, we really had to manage expectations. You know, I said, as we'd said very on earlier this week, a lot of people had been saying that, you know, they were going to lose 800 or 600 seats. But we had to then talk about, obviously, managing expectations. And Britain-elect said, cool your heels, guys. It's probably only going to be maybe about 200. Which, again, still a big loss. Still a big loss for the Conservatives. So, very, very interesting. Good morning, Bowler. A bright morning from North Jutland. Did the Tories get a bashing? Yes, so far the results are saying that. Like I say, not all the results are in from the councils. We're still waiting, but yeah, it hasn't been a good night for the Tories. Lost a lot of seats. Labour took Wandsworth, but the Greens and the Lib Dems had a fantastic night. Very, very much at the Conservatives' expense. Yeah. Very, very much at their expense. So, as FSM said, mixed results. We'll have to wait for the full picture to emerge. And like I say, results are still coming in even now. So, we're going to have to see. Tory's looking to have at least lost 200 to 300. Yeah. Is that the latest update? Just woke up. Who won? We're still waiting for that. Exactly. Labour took Wandsworth. That's the big news of the night. I think we're still waiting on Westminster. Certainly very interesting. Mark B. Economy to tank. For the madness of Brexit to convince the Brexit voting areas not to vote Tory. Very, very true. You know, it's not going to be a good couple of weeks. It's not going to be a good time for the Conservatives, because the Conservatives love to say, we are the stewards of the economy. We run the economy right. Well, the economy hasn't really been going too well. You're the ones who did austerity that really put the UK in such a bad place. We're looking at a potential another recession to be announced by the Bank of England. No one else is going to go into recession apart from us. You know, the Conservatives very, very much at the helm. There's rumours certainly going around last night. They got a bit mixed, or shall we say at least a bit hidden, obviously by the news of the local elections. But the Conservatives on the fridge. Obviously the news that Rishi Sunak might get shuffled out and replaced with Liz Truss. That's that's certainly some interesting news. Pretty Bird, greetings to you. So ultimately, has this been a really good night? Yes. One of the things it has confirmed, one of the things it absolutely has confirmed, there has to be an electoral pact. There has to be an electoral pact, not only just between the Labour and the Lib Dems, but include the Greens as well. We saw last night there was that local council where there were literally 4 votes. Labour lost by 4 votes. But if you took again, those Lib Dems and the Green votes in some of those areas, Labour could have easily won those seats. Again, same in some of the areas where the Lib Dems came second. Westminster, Wadworth have sent shudder down the Tory spines. Labour held Sunderland. What about Worthing? I don't know about Worthing. But like I say, Labour taking Wandsworth, that's the big news. That is big news. One of the things prior to the local election results we did see was that Labour would do very well in the metropolitan areas, which it does seem they have done, but bad in sort of the more town and rural areas where the Lib Dems were set to do pretty good. And that does seem to have been the news of the night. So that prediction almost certainly coming true. But not the Tories, Labour has to get to a point where they've got to offer more and, you know, really show them real change. I hope this does give them a boot to kickstart that change. So they've got to get, you know, they've got to get a move on. They've got to get that move on. So it's just a question of how and when, of course. And what is it they're going to do? I think PR will be a fantastic move for them. Really get the full results in. For it to be properly known. Certainly throughout the night, early night, we were hearing. So we're going to have affected the results, and more importantly, trying to figure out who didn't turn out. Yeah, I think by a government that wants to say, deal with it. you know, hey, I live in the world. Tories are rare indeed, but do exist, and are indeed a rare lower animal. PR should be the number one item for all Tories. Yeah, very true. This is why we want a electoral pact last night. And like I say, last night did show the use and the value of an electoral pact to to Labour, the Lib Dems and Greens, because they had that vote. They had that progressive vote, and it got split. And in some areas where Labour could have absolutely taken that seat, they lost. But if you put together the liberal vote, the Green vote, they could have won that seat. So ultimately, that is also a story that I hope does come out tonight. The need for the Progressive Alliance to really come together and really be formulated. So that will be it, indeed. And yeah, like I say, we saw, what is it, a local council, Labour just lost by 4 votes. 4 votes. And low turnout, wherever it may be, we'll have to wait for the full results. But we have to try and find out who didn't go out and vote and why. And I don't think, and we will at least not know that until at least long after the vote's been counted, maybe like a couple of weeks after. So again, we'll have to wait on those. Nope. Baby pony. But yeah, overall, am I disappointed by tonight's results? I don't know yet. I don't know yet. We have to wait how this all plays out. So we have to wait to see what all the results are going to be, what's going to come in. Taking Wandsworth is really big news for Labour. Certainly a very, very good win for them. Certainly a very, very good win for them. And obviously holding Sunderland, while good, I would have liked to have seen progress. I would have liked them to have seen to take seats. Hull was interesting because the Liberal Democrats took Hull. I haven't heard any news about Sheffield. But other than that could be interesting. Westminster Council doesn't mean Westminster Parliament. Very true, yeah. That's what we're talking about, local council elections, not the big one. But yeah, they could very easily take, if they take Wandsworth, local council, they could take Westminster, or maybe force it into a no overall control, because as I said last night, that was one of the key things we wanted to see when it comes to how many councils do the Conservatives control. You want to see it go down. We want to either see an increase in Lib Dems or Labour, or we want them to go into no overall control. Certainly against the Conservatives. And, you know, Boris has lost seats tonight, but we probably won't know the full picture, I think, until certainly later on today, probably in a couple of hours. Like I say, there are still results coming in as I'm doing this, so there may very well be fresh results coming in right now. So do feel free to check and update me on some of those. But yeah, it has come in. Oh, there we go. But we are still waiting on a lot of local election results, including, of course, in the UK. But again, we're just waiting. We've just got to see. Rob, but it's like you say, things are about to get worse for the Tories. Recession, inflation, climbing cost of living, and of course continuous Brexit impacts. Local elections next year too. Very true. So what's this? So apparently voting intention, according to David here, is -6 for the Tories, which again, quite a significant swing. And, you know, the story of the night, apart from, you know, the Lib Dems and the Greens having wins, and so it's certainly at least making gains, is that low voter turnout, how that has affected the vote, and more importantly, who hasn't turned out. That is what I want to know. If it is Conservatives that haven't turned out, fantastic. If it's, you know, other people that haven't turned out, that's bad. So, got to make that very, very clear. But we probably won't know until the full results of that are out. But also, Tory defections. How many Tory defections were there? How did that play into results last night? And who did they devote? Who did they defect to? We heard some Labour. We heard some Lib Dems. Overall, that's quite interesting, especially setting an interesting precedent for the next general election. But that could be quite interesting. David Porter, apparently we're at -240 council seats. That's still a lot, and probably still climbing on this. Paz News. Keir is playing a subtle long-term game of math. Johnson against Johnson, who is playing a mashup kiss chase game, a British bulldog with no rules. Very true. Robert Halford, it's up to local councils to push voter registration. It's not just up to local councils. It's up to all the political parties as well to turn out their voters as well. You know, how do we know that people don't turn out to vote. It's people who register to vote and then never turn up. And then, of course, you do the math of how many people live in that area, how many other votes, voters could have potentially turned up and didn't turn up who weren't registered. So definitely before the next general election, we have to have a big drive to get people elected, not elected, registered to vote. And then we have to have a turnout campaign, get out there and vote. Otherwise, the Tories are going to win when it's looking ever increasingly likely that they will certainly lose some seats at the next general election. Oh, there we go. So, yeah. How do I feel going into a potential general election? Potentially an autumn general election. That's the big key takeaway. Confident. Very confident that we can beat the Tories. But there's 3 ways this happens. If the left don't get together, if we don't get this electoral pact sorted out, we've got, we could have big wins if we have that. Big wins if we have that. Big wins. But if they don't get their act together and get that seriously sorted out, then we're heading for one of 3 options at a general election. Either A, the Tories are just going to narrowly scrape in with a very much reduced majority. Or we get a hung parliament with a Labour Lib parliament. That's possible. That's what we at least hope for. That will be a good outcome. And then we would have Labour coming in as a minority government with a very small minority. Those are the options really on the table for the next general election. So that's what it looks like. That's what it certainly looks like. At least going forward. We'll have to see, as always, what the news may bring, what these results mean. I'm sure a lot of people will be doing that. Mickey D. Recession, pay dropping, fuel costs increasing, double-digit inflation, energy companies charging over double for fuel costs rising. So many fantastic reasons to vote Conservative. Yeah, like I say, it ain't going to be a good time for them. And with them at the ship helm, they can't really blame anyone else. They cannot blame anyone else for what's going on. They've certainly got no ideas to help solve the cost of living crisis, which I think is going to drive a lot of anger already at the Tories. And especially you add that onto, a lot of the anger is out there that's still over the pandemic. I know how the Tories have acted over it. Well, it makes for an ever increasingly dangerous cocktail. But what we have to do is we have to get that anger and get people to realise if you want a better Britain, you know, you have to vote Labour or you have to vote Lib Dem. And as we said last night, we had the guy in chat who was like, oh, I want to beat the Tories, but I don't want to vote Labour because of Keir Starmer. And you're like, how many times have we said this? How many times have we said this? Doesn't matter. Does not matter. You're not voting for... You're not voting for a leader. You're voting for the party. And overall, Labour are the only party in a position to beat the Conservatives. They are the only party that's capable of doing it. Whether it be by themselves or whether they join an electoral pact with the Lib Dems and Greens, that's the big key question. So the other big key question, of course, will we see a Boris Johnson resignation? I don't think so. Boris ain't going. He ain't gonna go. It's then up to his own party to get him out. And as we've said multiple times before when we talk about this, it's not just about getting those letters in. Yes, getting those letters in is important, but it's about the vote afterwards. And that is the main thing that a lot of Tories are worried about. That they can get those letters in, but then they can't win the vote afterwards. And remember, if they fail on that, Boris is safe for a year. And we have heard that he might go for an autumn general election. Which, again, if he does, massive opportunity, but also very dangerous for us as well. Because we have to be prepared for that to happen. If we're not, then, well, it becomes Boris's game to win. And like I say, any election called by Boris around autumn time is purely going to be his trying to save his own skin. He's going to try and get rid of what he perceives of probably more troublesome MPs. So certainly more of the moderate Tories being kicked out. And certainly replaced with more right-wing libertarians of the Conservative flavour. So expect even more, shall we say, crazy policies based on bizarre free market ideology. Don't forget to doff your polo hat now. Yeah. So, what's this going to mean for the grand scheme of things? Certainly Boris has taken a kicking, the Tories have taken a kicking. I know a lot of you are going to be quite happy about that. Have they taken a bigger kicking as we thought? Maybe not. Not hopefully, but Labour has had some good results. Lib Dems have had some good results. Greens have had good results, and most of them have been at the expense of the Conservatives tonight. So that has been very much ultimately the good result for this. How this plays out now and goes on from here, we don't know. I think the Wakefield by-election has become even more important than ever to Labour. They have to have a clear victory over there. Have to. If not, they're in trouble. That's not what we want to be hearing. So, you know, it's been a good night overall. Because again, if you are against the Tories, it has been a very good night. If you are a Green or a Lib Dem supporter, you've probably definitely waking up having a bit of a celebration this morning. It's been very, very good news for you. And of course, if you are a Labour supporter, you've had a good night. Not great, but it's been good. But as I said at the beginning, all this proves is yet more justification for an election pact, for a progressive alliance. That is what a lot of those results were showing last night. That if, you know, the Greens, Labour and the Lib Dems had gotten together to fight this election as one, they could have won. Oh, I'm guessing we've had Hartlepool elections in. I think, by the sound of it, hasn't gone well. From what someone just said in chat, so it sounds like the Hartlepool election results are in. So we'll have to see what happens from here. And we don't know. You know, the ripple effect, what was dubbed last night as the Great Reorganising, still feeling those waves ripple out from 2016 still. How will this certainly play out for general elections? Difficult to say. But we shall see what the rest of the day brings. We shall see what the rest of the day brings. And like I say, ultimately, tonight was about beating the Tories. And in areas, we have done that. We have absolutely done that tonight. So if you are a Labour, a Green Party supporter, or a Lib Dem supporter, congratulations on your wins and holds tonight. Very well deserved. But key takeaway message: progressive alliance has to happen. Start putting pressure on your parties, your local parties, to start doing that. That is what must happen now. And it's very likely we could have, you know, an early autumn general election. So it's difficult to see which way this goes. But hopefully that is the key. And as you can see the little foal. Where is he? There he is in the background. So, that's the good news, really. It is good news. The Tories lost big. That is what the news we wanted to hear tonight. How this turns out, we hope we do get to see a proper electoral pact start to form. Certainly with the Labour and the Lib Dems. That would be very, very interesting if that happens. But again, they have to get the Greens involved as well. Can't stress that enough. The votes last night were showing that if there was a progressive alliance between all the progressive parties, there would have been even more bigger losses to the Conservatives. Lesson, hopefully, fingers crossed, learned tonight. But as always, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Thank you very much to all the people who again joined me last night. It was quite good fun. Like I say, practice for a general election. I think was quite fun. But yeah, overall, thank you very much for joining me. There will be a good morning walk, I think, on Sunday morning rather than Saturday morning, because I've got a party tomorrow night, so I will be elsewhere and probably maybe a bit hungover to do a Saturday good morning walk, so we'll have a Sunday good morning walk instead. Yes, as Hayes has said there, please do hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, if you are new, there are links down below to my Patreon page and one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. I'm certainly during a general election, certainly going to need all those coffees. That's definitely one lesson I learned from tonight. But as always, thank you so much for joining me. Have a fun, fantastic Friday. Have a fun, fantastic weekend. And I'll see you all on Sunday for a good morning walk.